Now on to this. An Israeli strike has wiped out a family of 11, including children in central Gaza. According to local news outlets, the blast struck a home in the Al-Maghazi refugee camp, with 3 more people believed to still be trapped under the rubble. Residents of the refugee camp gathered to assess the damage left by the strike and search for possible surveys. According to Palestinian authorities, over 42,000 people have been killed in Gaza since the October attack by Hamas that saw the death of 1,200 Israelis. Meanwhile, there has been an outcry after several journalists were killed in the Israel-Hammas conflict. According to UN Special Rapporteur Irene, conflict in Gaza has threatened freedom of speech. Khan's report has detailed unlawful, discriminatory and disproportionate restrictions by those in government and the private sector. Apart from Gaza, there were violations in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Joining us now is Dr. Pedro Mzileni, who is a senior lecturer in the Department of Sociology at the University of Zululand in South Africa. Doctor, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening. Could you perhaps just give us an overview of your understanding of the current state of freedom of expression for journalists that are covering the Gaza war, particularly in the context of the heightened tensions and conflict?
Well, thank you for inviting me. And it's really my honor and pleasure to be on your show tonight. Well, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists, as of today, which is Saturday, the 19th of October, 2024, there's been at least 128 journalists and media workers that have been killed in Gaza, the West Bank, in Israel, and also at Lebanon. And this is since Israel carried out these attacks last year, October, after the revolutionary violence that was waged by Hamas in resistance of the occupation of Palestinian territories by Israel since it was made a sovereign state in 1948. And to prove that Israel is a genocidal state that is also empowered by the United States, about 42,000 Palestinians have been killed by this settler colonial project of the Israel state up until today. And this includes 17,000 children. And out of those 17,000 children, 2,100 are infants below the age of 2 that have been killed in the Gaza Strip since October 2023. So the intention, therefore, to target journalists specifically is for Israel. Well, it is behaving like any other settler colonial state since the beginning of these colonial unspeakable crimes that have been done on black people around the world. It's targeting and killing journalists in order to be able to do things in the dark, so that they can evade accountability, so that they can control the narrative and keep lying and lying and lying to people and the world. They also want to kill different perspectives for those who want to teach about the Palestinian struggle, who want to offer different perspectives about how people have resisted this occupation. But also, they are killing journalists because they want to intimidate those who think differently, and they also want to control history and also shape the future. But fortunately, this colonial genocidal behavior of Israel that is empowered by the United States that is also complicit in these crimes is the most televised colonial apartheid violence in history. So they may kill journalists to try and control the narrative, but the whole world knows the truth, and one day they shall be brought to justice to answer for everything that they have done to the Palestinian people.
I mean, just speaking of those challenges, you mentioned 128 journalists to date that have been killed since October last year, and dozens others are languishing within the Israeli jails. Just talk to us about how can the principle of freedom of expression be balanced with concerns about national security, public safety, and just the protection of civilians in the context of war reporting?
Well, the environment of colonial war crimes is an environment of a catastrophe. So it is important for journalists to bring truth to the attention of the world so that the war can be condemned, so that there can be attempts made towards peace and justice, and also to avoid the mass killing of many, many people that are at risk from this particular conflict. For an example, if this onslaught on Palestinian people, including people of Lebanon and now people of Iran, because Israel is becoming more and more uncontrollable and crazy, and it is being supported by idiots in Washington who are led by the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken. None of these people are thinking straight about the consequences of what they are doing in Palestine, in Lebanon, in Iran, and in the entire Middle East region. Because I'll tell you what, if this is allowed to continue, and also this Israel-U.S. attack on Iran, if it is allowed to continue, it could result in the death of many people, of course, but also it will begin a major war between two superpowers, which is the United States and Russia. Because remember that Iran is a close ally of Russia. In fact, Iran itself is a powerful country with hypersonic ballistic missiles that can cause damage to population centers and major infrastructure targets in Israel and across the region.
Right.
So with Russia having nuclear weapons of up to 6,000 in quantity, they will not allow their ally, Iran, to be attacked by the US and Israel without a response. So journalists, therefore, and the freedom of speech and the freedom to talk about this, and what you guys at Newzroom Afrika are doing of broadcasting these interviews and these perspectives, they are helping to inform the public and the world about this issue so that it can be brought to an end before it escalates into something that will be uncontrollable and dangerous for all of us.
In closing, Doc, and just very quickly, what's your opinion on the impact that social media has had in ensuring that the world sees what truly is going on in that region?
Well, without social media, we would not have known that Benjamin Netanyahu is killing babies who are below the age of 2 in the name of hunting down Hamas. We would not know that universities in the United States, in Europe, and including some white universities in South Africa, are all complicit in the killing of Palestinian people in Gaza. Also, without social media, we would not have known that it is actually possible for all the oppressed around the world to unite against this settler colonial project driven by the Israel. That is why, as South Africa, we were able to come together and take Israel to the International Court of Justice, the principal judicial organ of the United States, to sort of ask them to deliberate and decide whether Israel is in violation of the 1948 Genocidal Convention,
right,
of which, in my view, obviously it is. So social media helps us as the oppressed, including us South Africans who are former victims of apartheid, to have solidarity networks with the people in Palestine, Lebanon, and Iran, so that all of us can rise in the world, in the global south, to contest and defeat this delusion of white United States of America of thinking that it is still the center of the world, whereas it is not, and it will never be, and it shall be defeated.